Hello everybody, my name is KingStix and today we're going to be talking about some big changes coming up in patch 8.9. There are many changes going on in this patch. It kind of feels like a preseason or end season patch, very big. The two biggest changes are definitely the mana changes overall across the board and the Ryze Rework. So basically what we're looking at here is a huge nerf to Doran's Ring and Spell Thief's Edge and Frostfang's early mana regen. So if you're a AP support player or an AP mid laner, this is gonna hurt you quite a bit. You can no longer get a Doran's Ring or just a Frostfang and expect that to sustain you through the early and mid game for your mana needs. Riot really wants to be forcing you into building a Lost Chapter, getting a tier, Luden's Echo, Hextech GLP. They want you to build another form of mana item. I'm nowhere for or against this since I personally don't play much mid or support right now, but I can understand why this would make a lot of mid laners and supports especially upset. They're being forced to buy more mana items just to keep up with their mana needs. Meanwhile, there's resource-based champions like Zed and Akali who don't even have to build mana items and they can just rush more and more damage. So that is the main thing that is happening. To counteract the early nerf on Doran's Ring and on the Frostfang's mana regen, Riot is giving a tweak to pretty much every AP mana champion in League of Legends by changing their mana regen, by changing their mana pool, and by changing their mana per level, trying to make it to where the early nerf won't affect it too much, but you'll definitely see a difference as the game progresses, being forced to buy more and more mana items. Another thing I really want to mention, which I find completely absurd and quite frankly disgusting, are the nerfs that Riot is bringing against Poppy in the PBE. These seem fairly certain because they are brought out at day one on the PBE server, and then a couple days later they reinforced the changes by making some slight tweaks. So I'm pretty sure these are going to go through. And by the way, those mana changes are definitely going through unless the community gives them insane pushback, which the community has done. When the mana changes were announced on the PBE and officially put in on the PBE client, the post made by Riot Axes got minus 82 downvotes. That may not seem like a lot, but for how many people actually view these posts, that's a significant number. The vast majority of the people who even voted on this post voted that they hated it, and it's easy to understand why, because it really is an overall nerf to anyone who enjoys mage champions being forced to buy mana items they wouldn't normally build or don't want. But like I was saying, an absurd, disgusting change is a nerf to Poppy, who's a really horrible top laner right now. She can't play top lane properly, she can't play support at all, and she can't jungle worth crap. Her early jungle is okay, but she just continually falls off in the mid and late game past the point of being useless. What they're doing is nerfing Poppy's base movement speed by 5 for some reason, and then they are nerfing the movement speed on her W from 32% at rank 1 to 30%, and from 40% at rank 5 to 30%. So it's just a flat 30% out of all ranks, which is already lower than it was initially. That really sucks for anyone who still plays Poppy. God bless your soul. And they are also nerfing the armor and MR from her W from 15% down to 10%. That is a 50% decrease. Hear me, 50% decrease. That is disgusting. Poppy, right now, she's ranked around 23, 24th best top laner right now. So that means there's roughly 22 champions who are better at what she does. It especially hurts me because I used to play a lot of Poppy back in the day when she was decent. The different nerfs they've done to her and then giving her meager buffs. And now this, why would you even bother giving her the shitty buffs you've been giving her in the past patches if you're going to drop this big steaming load onto her face? It makes no sense. Now I want to go over the Ryze rework real quick. Not very surprising since this is Riot. This is Ryze's third or fourth rework. Really crazy. Anyways, it seems like overall what they're trying to do is make Ryze's kit more dynamic. Like they always say that, but they end up changing it. So they want to make it more dynamic by not just Ryze stacking more and more mana items and tanky items on top of himself, but rather have his mana depend more on how he uses his spells. For example, now they want his W when cast to restore 6 to 10% of Ryze's maximum mana while no longer costing any mana to cast. They also want to make Ryze's ult more impactful. This will definitely help him out more in solo queue by increasing its tiny range of 1750 all the way up to 4,000 at all ranks, which is a pretty big deal, while at the same time increasing the cooldown by 120 seconds at rank 1, which is also huge. So now if you are a Ryze player, when these changes do come out, your early game ult usage will be very important because it's on a very long cooldown. But if you use it properly, you should be able to snowball the bot lane really easily. Unsealed Spellbook is also receiving a change. Essentially, instead of just going back to base and swapping it, they want you to be able to swap it for a one-time use whenever you're out of combat. So if you're in lane, you're not in combat, and you're about to get a gank, you can swap out your summoner spell. Let's say you had teleport, but now you want ignite, that sort of thing. I think this is a good change because previously, Unsealed Spellbook's overall usage was very plain Jane vanilla. You start out with Ignite and Flash in lane, you don't use your Ignite, you go back to base, you switch out Ignite for teleport and just teleport back. That was pretty much the only thing you saw it for other than its 10%, other than its overall decreasing the cooldown of your summoner spells. Lux has some really experimental changes. Now, granted, everything on the PvE is subject to change, but if you look at it and the way Riot pitches it, you can tell what they want to implement and what they intend on implementing, and they made it very clear with these Lux changes that these are experimental and that we can't really say if they are going to be placed in the next patch. But it seems like overall they want to be giving her buffs to her kit by nerfing her E a little bit, making it harder to land, because if the enemy doesn't have a dash or if their flash isn't up, if Lux uses her E, there's really no way for her to miss it. It moves too quickly and it's too wide that if you put it over the center of their hitbox when you cast it at any range, as long as they don't have a dash or they're insanely quick, they can't dodge it. So by nerfing her E, they intend on buffing the rest of her kit. I'd actually really like to see these changes go through. Kennen has been absolute dog crap because he was so good in the pro scene for a very long time. He's been nerfed and nerfed and nerfed, unusable in solo queue and in ranked play at this point. So they want to be giving him a little bit more damage. To make Kennen viable again, it seems like they want you to play him AD Kennen, because now whenever you land his E on an enemy champion, Kennen gains a massive burst of attack speed for 4 seconds, starting out at 30% and getting all the way up to 70% at rank 5. This is really strong. So if someone is going AD Kennen, expect them to be maxing their E first for that 70% extra attack speed. So seeing things like Rage Blade and Hurricane, if these changes do go through, is going to be a lot more common. We're also seeing some slight changes to Warwick. Overall, I'd say these are a buff, even though they look like a nerf. The healing on the Warwick's Q is getting a slight nerf in the late game, and the max health damage on his Q is getting a slight nerf in the late game as well. However, the early damage on his Q in the early game is going up a little bit. However, the cooldown on Warwick's W is being lowered a considerable amount by 20 seconds at its max rank. That's good for me because I usually max his W first anyways. Plus, the bonus movement speed is being changed to 65% from 55% at rank 5, which is also good for me because I max W first. So I don't really see this as a nerf to Warwick. I actually see it as stronger for Warwick, or at least in the way that I play him. Traditionally, Riot doesn't like off-meta builds because they feel like it damages the integrity of the game or it's unbalanced. For example, there's very few champions that actually scale with AP and AD. Things like Teemo and Shyvana are kind of exceptions. Typically, champions are either AD or they're AP, and if you build them the other way, you're doing it wrong and you're going to put your team behind. However, with this massive attack speed buff to Kennen, that's really going to help out AD Kennen, and now we're also going to see an AP Shyvana buff. They are buffing her AP ratios on her E and her R without really taking anything away. So on her W, she is losing a little bit of damage. She's losing out on 10% AP scaling, so that's just 10% damage gone from her kit. To make up for this, they are adding 30% AP scaling on her Flame Breath, going from 30% to 60% scaling, and they're adding 30% scaling on her R, going from 70% to 100% AP scaling. That 10% loss on her W is nothing when you look at the massive buffs giving to her E and R. I think you're definitely going to be seeing a lot more Shyvana played in an AP style with items like Rage Blade and Nashor's 2. The last change I want to mention is a change to the client, which is well deserved. This will allow you to change the background on your profile, so whenever you're looking at your rank screen, instead of just seeing your most recently played champion as the background, you can just change it to whatever skin or champion you like. I do believe you have to own that champion and skin to do it. However, this is pretty cool and something that should have already been in the game, but since they are adding it, you gotta say good job, well done. Two final things to mention are Mecha Zero Scion skins being released in the upcoming patch, and Dragon Master Swain Chromas being released as well. I'm a big fan of Chroma skins because it doesn't change the champion too much. Granted, I would like it to be on the base champion skin and not on a skin chroma itself, but still big fan of chromas. And that is going to wrap up big changes coming up in patch 8.9. Tell me what you guys think. Are you for or against these mana changes? Do you like the potential Ryze rework? I personally find it interesting. However, if I was a Ryze main, I'd probably be annoyed by it. The fact that they changed him so much. I do like how they are increasing the ult range on his ultimate. I feel like that could lead for some very cool plays. If you guys did enjoy this video and want to support the channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. My name is KingStix. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.